come into this time of message and meditation, I invite you to take a deep breath in and out. Let your breath, that is the breath of God, lead you fully into awareness of this moment, just as it is. Letting all that Spirit wants to express in us and as us to rise in our hearts. Letting the beautiful sound of Pete's piano playing lead you gently inward. Why have you come to earth? Do you remember? Why have you taken birth in this moment, in all the world's history? What miracle brought you into being? Why have you come? Have you come? Arise and walk forth, ready to love, to serve, to remember why you, unrepeatable you, why you have come to earth to be light. And then taking a deep breath in, letting that exhale softly leave your body. Open your eyes. Come into this space. And here we are. Thank you. I know why Pete's here. He's living it. So the part that I read that involved a little bit of Tucson, Arizona was actually Diana Butler Bass. And I'm not going to share her whole bit with you, but I loved actually what she said about Day of the Dead and All Souls Day, so I'll share that with you. I'm going to fumfer a little bit because I don't have my normal. I guess I'm kind of tethered to that podium when I'm at it. So she writes, the Day of the Dead commemorates the souls of all who have been taken from their loved ones, a fate we ultimately share with them. Remembering them is a kind of spiritual rebellion against death's power. All Souls is a festival that invites death to the party, a family reunion that no separation can foil. So this morning, I'm going to invite us to remember with love those ancestors who helped us to know why we came to earth, why we've taken birth, those who left a legacy of how to live our fully human, fully divine lives. I think I'm just going to do this. One of the things that I know is that some of the lessons that I've learned about how to be fully human are not always easy lessons. Some of those lessons are from the family I was born into, the cultural history that that family shares. But I also know that some of the lessons that I have learned are from the family that I've created over the years, those people whose lives have touched mine in really remarkable ways, not always easy, remarkable ways. And I imagine you have those people in your life as well. Maybe you were lucky. I feel fortunate some of those lessons I've learned were taught with gentleness and wisdom, with compassion. Some of those life lessons are more about what not to do. Thank you for laughing. We learn a lot about how we don't want to show up in the world by some of those harder situations that we find ourselves in, those harder relationships that we may have had. This morning, though, I want to really talk about a relationship that grew over time as a sacred gift in my life in ways that the standard cultural jokes don't really make sense with, and that is my mother-in-law. Both of my daughters-in-law have lost their moms. Lauren's mom died about 2 years ago, a week before she would have turned 70. And Megan's mom, as some of you know, if you've been here the last few weeks, just died at the beginning of October. They are walking a path that I haven't traveled yet. My mom and dad are still with me. And as I walk that path with them as their mother-in-law, it has really, really made me think about my own mother-in-law, Doris. Doris died in May of 2007. I have a picture up there on our little altar of her with my kids being total goofballs with her, probably before we were going to Christmas Eve services at St. Vincent's. She died just a few months after I had left my marriage. Over the course of our years together, from when I met her when I was not quite 20 until she died in 2007, we definitely had moments of being in the complex ecosystem of a family. But after my father-in-law died and she moved from New Jersey to right around the corner from us, we had the gift of proximity for 13 years to really come to know each other at a deeper level. So much so that I was actually her healthcare proxy before my now ex-husband, before my sisters-in-law. We shared a bond that taught me a lot. This spring, one night near the anniversary of her death, I came across a letter tucked in an old notebook, a copy of a letter that she wrote to my son Matt when he was heading off to his freshman retreat at Lemoyne College in Syracuse. Took my breath away to see her handwriting, to have her right there in the room with me again, and to feel the threads, the illusion of time, the gift of how our relationship had danced in and out of closeness in space and time. Her letter sparked laughter. It made me cry, sitting up in my bed reading it. It was her wisdom to Matt, how to go off on retreat and let God listen to his heart. Where is God leading you in this moment? And she ended it near the end saying, and when you feel like you're holy enough, have, exclamation point, fun, exclamation point. Love your Granny Bob, Doris Schmidt, just in case he forgot who his Granny Bob was. Her DNA, her life, very different from my own. But her DNA is wrapped up in my heart, and it's wrapped up in my kids' lives. So this month, as I witnessed my Matt's Megan, I watched her with her sisters in these months prepare to walk in the world without their mother's physical presence. And then I witnessed the moment of Kathy's letting go. And I witnessed Megan and her sisters and their husbands and their children and their friends and family in those rituals of saying goodbye a few weeks ago. I was struck by the image of not only the threads, right? We know that saying the ties that bind us. Sometimes those threads are gossamer thin. And I feel like in this thin time that I'm wearing my Celtic Irish necklace and tunic that I bought in Killarney, Ireland, the Celtic celebration of those thin times, but the reminder is any time can lead us to that gossamer thin time when we're present. So I'm going to share a little bit of my walk in that gossamer thin time, but then I'm going to pause and invite us into quiet again. And so those papers that are next to you, I hope, if not, there should be a basket and some pens and pencils floating around if you need one. And at home, grab something if you don't have it already. I'm going to invite you to think about one of those ancestors whose threads bind you in love, whether it was a soft, gentle, compassionate love or a challenging relationship. Think about one of those ancestors and how those threads hold you. So first I'm going to share a poem that I wrote in honor of Doris. And it starts with a quote by Walt Whitman that feels very appropriate for us today. It's from the preface to Leaves of Grass. Past and present and future are not disjointed, but joined. Past and present and future are not disjointed, but joined. For Doris. In that 18 years ago moment, I am the daughter-in-law who has just left your son. Now, 3 months later, we've gathered around your hospital bed as you prepare to leave all of us. Forgiveness and grace are in your soundless laugh, your shoulders dancing up and down, proof of my absolution. As I lean in, whisper that memory we both love of the patron saint of car trouble disguised as blessing, which gave us 2 days together in the now blessedly quiet cabin, sharing stories, sharing chocolate, sharing schadenfreude as we picture our 2 husbands flying solo with all 4 kids after our frenetic week of family camping at the lake. What patron saint has prompted me tonight to pick up an old notebook and discover tucked in its pages your note to my then 18-year-old boy? Your handwriting brings you right here, your wit and wisdom dancing across the page. I think of all I've learned from you about how to be grandma, mother-in-law, how to be a woman squarely facing life as past and present and future join. My shoulders dance their prayer of thanks. So I invite you into your own prayer of thanks. Take just a moment in quiet to bring to your heart mind one whose gossamer threads connect you past and present and future joined right now. If you close your eyes, you might get a gentle image. Maybe it's a fading image of a face, or a snippet of a favorite song, a memory of a favorite meal, a sensation of that relationship, a time and place that still echoes in you. And bring them here into this space right now with you, with us. What have they taught you? What bit of that legacy remains alive in you? And take a moment now to jot down on that paper a gift or a lesson, whether it was a tender gift or a hard gift, something you learned from this ancestor. Write it on that paper. Or simply write it in your heart. How has this person taught you to show up for your life? So now back to Day of the Dead and All Souls. 2 years ago when we did our first Day of the Dead celebration here at Unity, I came across a really amazing article in Sojourners magazine written by a woman named Sandy Oval Martins. I'm not going to share the whole article, but just this clip or this section that really resonates to what struck me this year in thinking about both the lessons from my ancestors the moment we're alive in, why have we come to earth? And what kind of an ancestor do we want to be? So she writes briefly talking about the rituals around her family's remembrances of her abuelita, her grandmother. Part of our grief was continuing to express love that we did not get to give, right? That's part of the grief, is those moments that we don't get to tangibly, physically share love, forgiveness with our loved ones who have gone on. But she adds this later in the article saying, but this day, these celebrations can also have a prophetic touch, shedding light on the horrors of current events, reminding the rich, powerful, and abusive that death is our common experience. In the book, The Wild Edge of Sorrow by Francis Weller, he writes about the gates of sorrow, and I've talked about that book in other times. The piece that struck me again today is the third gate, the gates of the sorrows of the world. It's not hard to see those sorrows, but he also ends the book with a chapter titled Becoming Ancestors. So we face all of those gates of grief. Recognize that everything we love, we're eventually going to lose. That there are parts of ourselves that we have exiled that we don't want to look at. We don't think they're worthy of love and forgiveness, and so we suffer grief at that. The sorrows of the world, the sorrows of things that we have lost and can't get back, and that ancestral grief that we carry with us through the generations. But here is the piece that I found so interesting and how it connects to this article about the Day of the Dead, that prophetic touch, shedding light on the horrors of current events. I probably don't need to list the horrors. We live in a moment when benefits for the wealthiest are borne on the backs of the most vulnerable. When children, elders, those with disabilities, the working poor, the many will go hungry at the hands of the cruel greed of the few. The weight of our communal grief is exhausting. Our communal grief over those horrors of current events compounds day after day after day after day. What are we to do with that grief? How are we called to be prophets? How are we called to arise and walk forth as the blessing into the world, into the complex ecosystem of our human family? How are we called to remember and to act with love? Luke Healy, the co-founder of the Integral Christian Network, writes about our call, the call of the loving evolution of this moment. He writes, if we are to see the loving evolution of Christianity and the world come forth, it will take more than a few great saints. It will take all of us stepping into our divine vocation to live from who we truly are into our authentic calling, offering our precious voice, our sacred work in the world, living into our divine vocation is not something we're meant to do alone. We have the great gift of beloved community from the living and from beyond to guide and support us. It is hard for me to even say the word Christian because so many actions that we see in the world around us that are labeled as Christian are the antithesis of everything I know from this way shower who taught us to feed each other, to forgive each other, to love each other beyond what is easy and sentimental. We are called to be prophets then, to be the ancestors who will be the future's gift. I am blessed to have grandchildren that make me highly aware of my call to be an ancestor. But I also know that that ancestry does not depend on we have given physical birth to anyone. The way we live our divine vocation calls us into prophets, kings and queens of the God of peace. Healy also writes, we step into the great divine dance of the world becoming new. From the great source of divine vitality, our deepest passions and holy calling in this life. Pete, that's why your piano playing is a gift to us. Why the voices of you and Jerry and Raj and the trumpet playing of Susan lead us fully into this moment. You are living your passion for us. You continually call forth in me a desire to live my divine vocation that might be a specific ministerial vocation, but it's more than that. It's our call to show up fully as who we are called to be. I love what Healy says about holiness. Holiness, because it reminded me a little bit of Doris saying, Matt, have fun when you think you're holy enough. Holiness is not about morality or spiritual heroism, but the sacred act of taking up the truth of our divine being, clothing ourselves with this calling every day, and walking into the world to be the enlivened hands and feet of love, the mind of Christ, the womb of new life, the heart of God. So I'll ask again, why have you come to earth? Why have you taken birth? Why have you come to this moment right now? What kind of an ancestor are you? So let's take a deep breath of a pause, and on that paper, either alongside or on the other side of the gift that you received from some ancestor, what is the gift that you are as an ancestor? And write that for yourself in your heart or on that paper. Why have you come to earth? We are here to arise and walk forth, to wake up, to get moving, to dance in the face of our mortality, to dance with the face of our mortality, knowing that death is not the final answer. Why have we come? To love, to serve, and to remember. May we be the ancestors. May we be the hearts and hands this present moment needs. May we forgive those moments of our own past and unknot the ties that bind us so that there is room for grace and forgiveness. And may we show up living into our divine vocation each moment of each day. And so it is.